Hello, banana and mango tree classes. Mrs. Masuku here again with your third inquiry lesson. So in your first lesson, you were exploring the Espresso website. The second lesson, you were creating your own timeline. And today we're on to our third lesson and we are learning to explore our community's history. So one way to find out about people who lived in the past is to look around our community. So today, I want you to think about where would you find a place in the community with details of people who once lived nearby. Think about that question for a moment. Where would you find a place in our community with details of people who once lived nearby, so people that aren't living anymore? Can you think about it? Have you got it? Yeah, in a graveyard. So a graveyard, also known as a cemetery, is a place where people who have died are buried. Has anyone ever visited a graveyard? Does anyone live near one? Did you know that there are 7 graveyards in Bristol? I didn't know that before now. So we're going to be thinking about Green Bank Cemetery, which is just a short walk from our school. And here we've got a picture of a map. And if we were going to be looking at the map and the starting place as our school, we could walk to Green Bank Cemetery in 19 minutes if we went this way, or 20 minutes if we used the cycle path. So imagine we were walking along the cycle path, lots of us know where that is. We got all the way up here, we would find this cemetery just 20 minutes walk away. Some of you might actually live very near there. And here we've got an aerial view of the cemetery where you can find all of these gravestones. And an aerial view is a view over the top, looking over the top of the graveyard. All of these paths here are where you can walk. So if we would have been able to go for a visit, or if you could go with your families for a walk around in the graveyard, these pathways are where you could walk. So like I said, we would have liked to go for a walk to the Green Bank Cemetery ourselves to explore the different graves. However, unfortunately, it's not possible at the moment. So instead, we are going to do some research. But first, let's learn a little bit more about this local graveyard. So here you can see that there's a link. There's a link to how you can get on to the website that we'll be using. But if you can't follow that link, you can just have a look at the video that I'm showing you now. Okay? Details of that link are on the instruction page for week 1 of your inquiry work. Within the city of Bristol lie 7 cemeteries, 2 of which are sprawling Victorian realms. The largest, Arnos Vale, opened in 1839 and Green Bank followed shortly afterwards in 1871. Relatively speaking, Green Bank is a large Victorian garden cemetery, but like many others, it suffered from years of neglect, so it wasn't really very well looked after for a long time. Today it's mostly visited by mourners and nearby families who occasionally picnic on its slopes, rather than having a wider public draw. So not many people go and visit just to visit the graveyard. Some people just might live nearby, so might go and sit on the grass there. Curiously, the old notice board commanding that no children were admitted unless under the care of responsible persons still hangs damaged on the gates, long ignored by the visitors. So there used to be a sign which is still up there saying that children are not allowed in the graveyard unless they're with a responsible adult. On this page, I've put some different pictures of the graveyard. You'll be able to find them if you go onto the website yourself. So I'm going to scroll through these pictures, and you could imagine if you were going for a walk there, what it would be like. So I told you already that those pathways, when we looked at the aerial view, go all the way through the graveyard. You can see there are gravestones on either side of the paths where people have been buried for many, many years. What can you see? Do all of the graves look the same? How are they different? You can see an old picture there of the Greenbank Cemetery in Bristol. And so the reason we're looking at this graveyard today is because we want to answer our question, how can we find out about people in the past? And one way is by exploring in our community. So what I'd like you to do is in your workbook, which you're using for your English work and your inquiry, you can use your inquiry at the back and your English at the front. I'd like you to start by writing the date and the WALT. So you can pause the video here and write the date and the WALT. When you've written the date and the WALT, what I would like you to do is in your work pack that you've collected from school or that's been delivered to your house, you should have a page with 4 pictures. 4 different graves with some descriptions of who was buried there. And what you need to do is using your researching information, your researching skills, I would like you to answer these questions. You can just choose one of the gravestones to write about, but if you'd like a challenge, then you can answer more questions. And I want you to think about, when you've chosen your picture, answer the question, what can you see? You can answer the question, can you find the deceased person's name? And I'd like you to write their name. So the deceased person means the person that's died or the person that's buried there. The next question, is there a date on the grave? If you can find a date on the grave, I'd like you to write that down. Is there an age of the person that's died? Sometimes there is an age written on there, what age they died at. Sometimes you have to work it out because it tells you when they were born and when they died, so you might have to do some maths. And sometimes it doesn't tell you. And then I want you to consider what other information can you find out. So remember, you're choosing one of these pictures to answer those questions about. And then if you can find any other information, it might tell you what job that person did or whereabouts they lived in Bristol. then I want you to include that in your book as well. Okay. When you've finished that, I'd like you to take a picture of it and send it to your teacher. So you can send it to Mrs. Masuku or Mr. Matthews so we can see that you're doing your inquiry work. And you can also have a little look on the website in case you wanted to find any more information out for yourself. Okay, so remember, we're answering the question, how can we find out about people in the past? And you can be using our local community to answer that question. And that's why we've been looking at the Greenbank Cemetery. Well done for having a go yesterday. Keep going with your home learning, and me and Mr. Matthews and I are really, really looking forward to seeing even more of your work. Okay? Bye, Year 3. Bye-bye.